Nicely done. That's a full stage right there. Fox News Alert on a Friday, the 13th. The Obama administration changing the rules on Obamacare yet again. What is up with that? New day, new story. I'm Bill Hemmer, and welcome here to America's Newsroom. How you doing?
Good morning, Bill. Morning, everybody. I'm Martha McCallum. So this time, insurance companies are being asked to extend the deadline a little bit, allow people to sign up now, give them to the end of the month, the government says. Not only that, Kathleen Sebelius is asking these insurers to start covering Americans in the new year, whether they're actually covered or not.
It's a novel idea, isn't it? Stuart, Varney, anchor of Varney Company, Fox Business Network. Good morning to you.
Morning, Bill.
The government's running the show here.
Yes,
What do they want?
They are making up the rules as they go along to account for the chaos and the mess which they themselves have created. As you pointed out, they've just extended the deadline. Essentially, they are telling the insurance companies, get out there and cover people who may or may not have valid coverage. One more quick point, Bill. They're strongly encouraging insurers to treat out-of-network doctors as if they're in-network.
My gosh. This is like an amoeba, Stuart. It just keeps on bouncing around and moving around. It takes a different shape every day. What will these companies do? Can they say no to this request?
It's very difficult to say no to a government which strongly insists that you do this. The insurance companies are in a real pickle here. They know that come early January, an awful lot of people will think they've got coverage, but they don't have coverage. The administration wants to make sure that they really do have coverage, so it's forcing the insurance companies to pay up. Now, whether they can legally do that or not, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. But that's exactly what they're saying.
We had a lawmaker on yesterday. He thinks hundreds of thousands in January find out that they thought had coverage and actually did not. Bless you, Martha.
Right. Now, wait a second. Bless you, Martha. Here's the worst case. First week of January, somebody gets into a car accident. They think they've got coverage. They don't. Are they on the hook for $1 million bill? Who is? Who pays?
It's a great point. Now, the government and the insurance companies are going to get together. They're going to make a guess at how much the insurance company should be making.
Yes.
I mean, that's like an arbiter coming in and saying, it might be A, it might be B, it might be C.
Yes. Wait. The fallback position here is that they can tell the insurance companies what to do. The insurance companies will lose money on this extension of the deadline. But remember, hidden within Obamacare, the legislation is that provision that at the end of the line, if the insurance companies don't make enough money, the taxpayer will top them up. The taxpayer will bail them out. Ultimately, this all comes onto our back. We pay for this.
Listen, you're a money guy. You're a market guy. It is really tough to run a market this way with the rules changing by the day.
It's not a market. It's a command economy. It doesn't work.
See you at 9:20. Stuart Varney, Fox Business Network. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, meanwhile, the House Oversight Committee is holding a hearing on how Obamacare will affect access to certain doctors and hospitals. A panel of doctors telling Darrell Issa that their concerns go way beyond the glitches in the website.
None of what you're seeing and are about to see is unforeseen. The Affordable Care Act's problem is not a computer site.
There is simply no way that basically any of the hospitals, certainly in the Phoenix area, and I guess a bulk of the ones around the country, would stay open.
Wow. Well, what do you think about that? Are you concerned that you could lose your doctor in all of this? Send us a tweet. Let us know what you're thinking this morning at Bill Hemmer, at Martha McCallum, and we will share some of what you send to us today. We'll put them up on the screen at the end of the show. So
Got a letter from a doctor 2 weeks ago. Said, sorry. First of the year,
Yeah,
you're done, Hammer. Wisconsin Republican Governor Scott Walker has a plan to go around Obamacare. His proposal would allow people to get access to federal subsidies, but with the freedom to purchase coverage plans directly from the insurers. Walker needs the blessing of Health and Human Services to get this done. Here he is talking about it.
If they don't approve this, this would ultimately be exposing that this really isn't about access and this isn't about affordability. It's about the government playing a heavier hand in these decisions.
Well, Governor Walker's plan gaining a bit of traction even among Democrats in the Badger State of Wisconsin and stands in the face of the president's claim that when it comes to health care, Republicans are all complaint and no solution. 4 minutes past.
Boy, we've been watching this. John Boehner once again slamming Tea Party groups after the House passed a bipartisan budget deal. The vote avoids a government shutdown, saves $85 billion, and rolls back part of the across-the-board cuts that were known as a sequester. House Speaker John Boehner commenting on this plan, criticizing outside conservative groups allied with the Tea Party that tried to sink it. Fired up. Here's what he said.
This budget agreement takes giant steps in the right direction. It's not everything I wanted. But when groups come out and criticize an agreement that they've never seen, you begin to wonder just how credible those actions are.
Wow. The budget goes to the Senate for a vote next week. Steve Hayes, Fox News contributor and senior writer at the Weekly Standard. We did have our Christmas party last night. Did I mention that? Joining us now. Steve, good to see you this morning.
Hey, Martha.
You know, for a long time, it felt like John Boehner was sort of, walking the fine line, trying to keep the Tea Party guys happy, trying to keep his own side. It feels like that all bets are off now.
Yeah, it does to a certain extent. I mean, I'm not sure I agree with this characterization that this deal takes giant steps in the right direction. I mean, I think you could make an argument that it takes modest steps in the right direction, or that it's worth doing just to get beyond a big fight about the deal. But I'm not sure it's also smart to be taking on Tea Party groups, outside groups, right now in the middle of the collapse of Obamacare. The last thing Republicans should want at this point is anything that takes attention away from Obamacare. I think that's an argument for the deal. I also think it's an argument for not going after outside groups right now.
Yeah, I mean, perhaps that should be the way that, some might advise he should go about it, to keep the focus on Obamacare. But, clearly he is calling out these groups, and he basically said, you didn't even know what was in it. You criticized this before it was even passed and before it even went through the process. So, do you think they are losing credibility with the American people?
Well, no, I don't necessarily think. I mean, look, these outside groups represent a lot of American people. I think they represent a lot of conservatives. Certainly when I travel around the country, there are many people who are making these kinds of arguments, people who favored what conservatives did back in the context of the debt ceiling fight, the budget fight. So these groups certainly have a constituency. Now, at the same time, I think these groups have gone overboard in some of their criticisms. I mean, it's not the case that every time John Boehner or somebody else in leadership has a different tactic, that they become a rhino or a sellout. I think both sides in this case have been guilty of jumping to conclusions and making claims that sometimes are not backed up by all of the evidence. And again, I just think the timing on this kind of a fight is foolish. Now what you've got in newspapers across the country and other networks, to a certain extent, is a discussion about Republican infighting, when the focus for Republicans, from their perspective, should be on Obamacare.
Steve, thank you very much.
Thanks, Martha.
We'll see you later. In fact, coming up in this hour and next hour, Tea Party Republican and Utah Senator Mike Lee is going to be here. We'll get his reaction to this debate and the firing up of the rhetoric by John Boehner that you just heard. And his, some are calling it an outburst against the conservative elements of the party. And we're going to talk to him about the Senate talkathon, too. And Senator Rubio is going to be here as well. So lots coming up. Yep.